And the last one is general election. Whenever it happens, battle lines have been drawn. And the Unionists are putting the idea out there to their followers via Douglas Ross that in the Central Belt and in populated areas, Tory voters should vote Labour. And in rural areas, where the Tories traditionally do well, Labour voters should vote Tory to block the SNP.
Yeah.
Smacks a wee bit of desperation.
But it's been done before.
Yes, that's the point.
And it's been done successfully before.
And of course,
that's how come Jackie Bailey along that road in Blooming Dumbarton. She should never hold a Blooming MSP in this area, right? But she was helped by the Tories to get in. Right.
And that's how they did. That's how they got Alex Salmond out of his seat and things like that.
Yeah.
It's no new, but what they're doing is they're sending the signal out.
Yeah.
So that they know what they're doing, and they're doing it a fair bit out. That way they can have the media play it a wee bit and say, Sunak says, shut up, Ross, Tory voters vote Tory. Starmer saying, shut up, Labour. Labour will be Labour. You know. But the point is, it's actually a situation that we now find ourselves in. We know what they're going to do. They've given their supporters prior notice what they expect them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very dangerous time for the independence movement. This could well be your and I last campaign.
Absolutely.
This time after this next general election, I could be sitting down writing my book. I've already got a title for it. Mm. How our independence movement killed itself.
Mm. And, you know, going off what I've seen over the last 5-6 days, it's like, I've got to say, some people are doing a bloody good job of destroying the indie movement. You know.
Aye. And which brings us to what John Curtis had to say on Top TV. Funny how these people are appearing on this Gammon TV network and they try to promote it.
Yeah.
You get Mr. Salmond on there, you get John Curtis on there. Anyway, what he said was that the yes vote's holding up fine, but the SNP have to pray that the yes voters still vote SNP, because if there's a shift to Labour, then the yes vote can stay where it wants. But there's no vehicle.
Yeah, but this goes back to the older of our community, right? Where in the past, what people here used to do was vote Labour to keep Tory out, right? Or vote Labour to get Tory out. And that's the way that their heads are still locked into that. And then when the shout goes out, oh, make sure that you vote Labour, or make sure you vote, if you're a Tory, you vote Labour to keep SNP out.
This was the next point I was going to bring up. Alba, SNP and Green should link together. Thomas, I'm going to tell you a factual truth here. And this is something people don't get. And I pointed this out 2 years ago in a video for Bonnie Bridge in the evening, my second video of the day. Right? They don't recognise anybody for independence except for the SNP. At this point in time, at Westminster, we have 43 or 44 SNP MPs and 2 Alba MPs that walk the floor. They don't recognise the Alba party at all. Here in Scotland, along that road in Holyrood, we have a majority of pro-independence MPs. Both parties stood to be elected on a pro-independence manifesto, but they don't recognise the Greens. And that's what they're telling us. There is no mandate because it's no an SNP majority. And remember, this one's going to be a Westminster election. And if the SNP lose MPs rather than gain them, then the game's a bogey.
Yeah.
The game is a bogey. I said this 2 years ago when I did the cracks in the movement video. We are fighting for the very existence of our nation. And to fail at this point in time and see the SNP go backwards, support for independence can stay solid at 48-49%, as John Curtis said it is. But if you don't have a vehicle, a recognisable vehicle,
that's right. That's the trick.
And Westminster has proven it doesn't recognise the Greens or the Alba Party, and I don't mean any disrespect to them. It's Westminster being democracy deniers. It's nothing to do with the political parties. It's going to do with Westminster being democracy deniers and basically saying the SNP are nothing. It's an SNP majority or nothing. That is what the unionists are telling us.
Yet again, that'll be the Tory or Labour unionist politicians playing to a particular crowd when they say we don't recognise anything of that, right?
But we know they don't recognise the Greens.
No, let me finish on this wee point, right? It gets darkest just before dawn.
That's why I said this could be our last campaign. I never said it's going to be.
Right. So we've got to expect the worst, but hope for the best. And we do know that the Labour vote Labour to keep Tory out is going to be a thing. We know that's going to be a very, very heavy thing. You're just going to have to talk to people. Sorry, guys. It's like coming on here on Facebook and all the rest of it. It's very good and we love to see you. And thank you for coming on. But you're actually going to have to go and talk to your next door neighbour or your workmate or whatever and ask them. And if there was a Westminster election, who do you think you'll vote? And if they come up with, oh yeah, I'm voting Labour to get Tory out, well, maybe it would be a good idea for you to actually explain to them why that would be a bad idea. Okay. That's all.
John Curtis has made this clear, David. You know, the yes vote has held up strong through all this turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
We're still sitting, since the Nicola resigned, we've had 6 polls, and they all still have it basically 50-50, as John was saying.
That's the yes family speaking, right? However, you're quite right. Doesn't matter how many in the yes family you've got, you could have like 4,999,999 people in the yes family, but if they don't have a political vehicle to actually take them to independence, it ain't going to happen.
And what we do know, David, is that they don't recognise multiple parties standing on a single platform.
Right.
We have that in Holyrood right now.
Yep.
And if the demise of the SNP and these other parties taking up the slack is the answer, it's still going to be our last campaign, David, because it won't be in our lifetime. You're in your mid-60s, I'm in my mid-50s.
It becomes pointless task. It becomes savage amusement, which is an old saying that I know from the northeast of England, right? Savage amusement. I'm not going to do savage amusement.
But we have to be brutally blunt and brutally honest with our audience, because the audience only ranges from 35 to 80 votes.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're barely getting the demographic that we really need to get our horns on. As you know, we've got the audience breakdown, David, so we know roughly how many is male, how many is female, the average age, that sort of thing. Viewers, it just shows you how much the AI out there has gathered information on you. The streaming services, FB and YouTube can tell us what demographic you are, where you are in the world, with your viewing the lot. Get it on the analytics. But it is important here, folks. If the SNP go backwards in this general election, then it's a 20-30 year rebuild for the next generation. Look how long it took us to get to 2014. Look how long it took us to get 48, 49% the polls, sometimes over, sometimes under 50. That's why John says earlier, last 22. When he was correcting the wee woman on Gammon TV, it wasn't GB News, it was the other one, Talk TV. When he was correcting her, he said, our last 22 polls is 50-50 hen. And then he went on to explain the big danger is that people stop voting SNP in their droves.
Yeah.
If someone was switched to Labour to get rid of the Tories and they start to gain seats for the SNP and no just the Tories, which they need to get over 30% of the popular vote today apparently, then the game's a bogey, folks. If the SNP go backwards or even stand still, I think. If stand still, they might just get away with. But trap an MP or two, and the game's a bogey.
And that's the reason why we keep asking you. Don't care who you are. Don't care what your politics are. You want Scotland independent? What do you know is get yourself a membership with the SNP.
But if you can't do that, make sure that this next election, because this is the pivotal election for the independence movement. I can't emphasise this enough, and it's not because of David and I's age. This is the pivotal one because if the SNP go backwards and they only recognise the SNP as the vehicle, then the game's a bogey.
And why do you think there are so many attacks on the SNP at the moment? All generated by the British establishment. Seriously, you might laugh at that, but I'm telling you, all generated by the British establishment. And this is what
the nearer we get to this election, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's talk about Dross. Yeah. Let's talk about Sarwar. Dross's public statement, and then Sarwar's like, we don't need your help. Actual casual rebuttal. As David said earlier, it's worked before. It will work again unless we turn out, because we still have more numerically than they have.
Yeah.
Numerically combined, we still have more. If people are willing to vote for the SNP. Now, when it comes to the Holyrood election, we can get back to arguing whether 2 or 3 pro-independence parties in that parliament will make a difference. Looking at the fact that there's 2 at the moment, and it hasn't made a difference. That's a debate to be had after this Westminster election. But for this Westminster election, if the SNP go backwards, it'll be our last campaign, David. You and I were sitting down to write a book about how our AIM movement,
and I know it,
6 or 7 years,
and I know where the bodies are buried.
Aye, but that never went that far. If we ever look at it, this movement has been pushing and pushing and pushing for an extended period of time.
Aye.
That has allowed fractionalisation.
Yeah.
And I warned personally that if that fractionalisation happened, there would be unionists putting big levers in the cracks and it would blow it to smithereens. Well, this is that moment. Me and Big John doing the supermarket the other day brought that home to Beathias. Because during our discussion we went, what's the way forward, John? What's the way forward, David? And the answer was to do. Because we're busy doing it to ourselves.
Yes.
Busy doing it to ourselves.
That's a shame. There you go.
But can I emphasise this enough, David? We're going to get that long we go on the show, 12 minutes. If the electorate and the Yes movement, as John Curtis says, don't get out and vote SNP at this next election, kiss it goodbye for at least however long it takes the 35-year-olds to build their own movement.
And all the ones that jump up and down and think how wonderful Mr. Salmond is and the Alba party is and all the rest of it, I can continue. Keep going, guys, because at the end of the day, we'll be able to point you and go, well, you
no, we won't be pointing because we need voices in the democracy, David. I'm not pointing that game. What I will say is, history shows that divided movements do not win their cause.
Yeah.
So for this next election, at least, we have to be united. We can argue about the Scottish election afterwards.
Yeah.
But this next election will be the one that gives us a mandate to say that the Scottish election is going to be the de facto independence referendum, because that's the way the party's going to go with it. That's the way they're going to go with it. It's not something that you and I favour.
No.
But sensibly, you and I know that we want a Scottish election to be the de facto independence referendum. Westminster election coming first. So they're going to ask for a mandate to make that Scottish election a de facto election. And they could then call a snap Scottish election if need be.
Do you want to know something? It's like the way I look at it. See if we win either the Westminster or the Scottish election. Well, the Westminster one will come first. We win that. We're independent. Sorry, guys. We just that's it.
No, David, you're right there. If we win that one and the SNP gets back up with 56, 57,
doesn't have to go up to that. No, it doesn't have to go up to that. It's to
no,
go up.
All right, then let's just say the SNP gain.
Yeah.
Right.
We're 30.
You then give notice to Westminster that you intend to negotiate and you're going to take it to the Scottish people to get it ratified that you can negotiate. And that's what you call a Scottish de facto referendum, if you like, in the form of an election.
Yeah.
But I think the party will, because of the turmoil in it. We've seen what Mike Russell had to say, we've seen what Humes had to say. You know, I think they also know that the result of this next election will be the game changer. And I didn't have to want to get to the point where I say this, David, because, you know, what's transpired and the very fact that the movement's done it to itself is the hardest thing to stop.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. Absolutely agreed.
I mean, you and I went through the absolute festival of melting pot of ideas, all putting them to one side, and that's where the saying was born. And that is let's get the keys to the house before we argue about how we're going to decorate it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
You know, and that's where my eyes on the prize comes from. And it comes directly from that. We have to be concentrated on that one goal of getting the keys. Then we can argue about how we go about renovating and decorating.
Yeah. But we're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near that point at this moment in time.
But the battle lines have been drawn, David. That was the whole point of this segment of the show.
The thing about it is, we're in 2023 now, right? It could be the very end of 2024 before a Westminster election is called.
Aye.
Whereas, technically speaking about it, we could have a Scottish election, a Scottish plebiscite within the next 3-4 months, if wanted.
Aye, but it won't be recognised.
Why won't it be recognised? As far as I'm concerned, you might take one view on this, but my view is the Scottish people were to vote in that way on a Scottish election, right? Yes, it will be recognised, because what we'll do is we'll turn to our neighbours in Europe or whatever, and they will go, yes, we recognise an independent Scotland.
Aye.
It won't be recognised by Westminster, but it won't be recognised by Westminster no matter what. And you know that.
Aye, I know that. I think they'll go for the double whammy.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do know what you're talking about, and I agree with you 100% on it.
Yeah.
Any vote on it,
yeah,
which shows a clear will of the Scottish people.
Westminster are not going to agree to anything under any circumstances, because they know, the ones that in the know they've got too much to lose. We go our way with our resources, they're buggered.
Listen, we don't need to get into that part of it. What we're going to emphasise today is that if the SNP go backwards in this next election, which happens to be the general election, then this will probably be you and I's last campaign on this issue, because it will be shelved. Simple as that.
Anyway, there you go.
But that's the facts, because that the media will then get into overdrive. Scotland loses interest in independence. SNP go backwards.
Yeah.
And the people are weary.
Yeah.
You know, so we can't emphasise enough that that's the case. And that's just a political reality. You know, for us, it's been easy. It's been all SNP wins and gains, David. We've fought a good campaign.
Yeah, we've got as many mandates as you could blooming shake a stick at, you know.
Well, with the beer
but the thing is, though, right? Whilst we're asking people to vote to join the SNP and all the rest of it, we really must push home the thing that the present leadership of the SNP still want to go for another mandate and then put it to the test in a Scottish election. Why not just go for the Scottish election? I might be.
Yeah, I have said this. We know that they could collapse Parliament at any time. We have said this.
Yeah.
But as I say, I think they're going to go for a double whammy, especially with the current turmoil. I think they're looking at this Westminster election to gauge appetite again.
Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned,
but you and I are individuals, and we are ardent campaigners. Yeah. They're also a political party.
Yeah.
You know, we're members of a political party, but the reality is, because of what's going on right now, which we know has been orchestrated by the state, but because of what's going on right now, I think that's the way the party's going to go.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say I like it, because you and I often disagree with the party, although people out there will tell us we don't. You know, but I think that's the way it's going to go. And if that's the way it's going to go, people were still going to have to get behind it. Because if the SNP go backwards, they're going to have to start from scratch again. Sorry, but that's the facts.
The amount of times that we've been sat here thinking this is it, we're getting close, and then getting knocked back, and then we think we're getting close again, and then we're getting knocked back, and it's like, I really think that yes, we need to get our weight behind the SNP, but we also need to get our fucking voices heard in the SNP and say, never mind another mandate, guys, let's just go for it.
Well, what we have to do is get our voice, use the democratic system within the party to decide one way or another.
Yeah.
And although you and I don't agree with the idea of another mandate and then going on to a Scottish plebiscite election, if that's what the party wants, and that's what the majority of the party wants, well, Democrats will go with it.
All right. Yes. And being Democrats, I would have to say to Alba, the Alba supporters is, never mind your blooming political party, get in, join the SNP, get into the blooming the meetings, the SNP meetings, and change it from the inside. If that's how you feel, guys, make it happen from there.
That was our argument with the EU and all.
Yeah, correct.
And the unions will say, well, that's our argument. We asked you to stay and lead.
Yeah.
But we already know, because they asked us to stay and lead, and we did stay.
Mm-hmm.
No my preference, no your preference, but we did stay. We've seen what subsequently happened.
Yeah.
You know. But as I say, this one is a pivotal election for our movement. And let's keep it clear here. This is a pivotal election for our movement. It could come sooner than January 2025, which is the latest it could push it to.
Yeah.
It might well be the traditional May next year. It might come earlier. But we still have to emphasise the fact that this is a pivotal point for our movement. We've already stated why it's a pivotal point. They don't want to be downhearted, because when you look at it, as Mr. Curtis said, it's still 50-50 in the polls. There have been 6 polls done since Nicola resigned. The yes vote is holding steady at 48-49%, so he's still calling it 50-50, because they fluctuate a wee bit early 22 months that he was looking at. And but we need our 50% to get out and vote for the SNP. The whole of the election, we can talk about afterwards. But if we lose momentum here at this election, then the media will go to town, and we will really lose traction.
Yeah, that's right.
This time we have to prove that we haven't lost any traction.
No, this time.
When the election's no enough.
David, we need to go further on that. It's not a case of proving that we haven't lost traction or manage to stay with the status quo.
We have to gain momentum.
That's right.
And we can do this, folks.
Mm-hmm.
This wee segment might have sounded downhearted because, you know, David and I are Alba campaigners. We don't really want to give up. You know, we don't want to admit defeat. But we can do this. We can get the yes vote out to vote for the SNP and to give them that traction, to give them that momentum. It's no beyond our ken. We've done it before. We can do it again. David and I were part of the digital revolution, which in the SNP bypassed the mainstream media in 2007 and 2011. They've caught up with the mainstream media back now. But we've got big networks. We can still do it.
And sorry, David, I was just going to say, and let's face it, Labour, I assure you right at this moment in time, it doesn't matter what's happened with in the news regarding the SNP, Labour are an easy target. We can pull Labour apart, no bother whatsoever. You want Brexit? No, we didn't want Brexit. However, vote Labour, that's what you're voting for. You're voting for Brexit.
Every time they hold a rally, it'd be easier for us to break it up. You know, you've got somebody giving it in a town hall about Labour being the change that Scotland needs. You know, only needs half a dozen years and the meeting to start up and say, you kidding, poverty pie and continuity starmer.
Yeah. Aye.
You know, that's all it takes to make people think.
Aye.
You know, defeating Labour's no bad. It's not a hard man. We just point out the fact that Sarwar is a champagne Tory.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, something like that. Right.
Anyway, so that's us. We've come to the end of the hour. We've ran over by a couple of minutes. Well, we don't mind that. So we don't mind that. But it's like, thanks for joining us. Sorry it was a bit of a, let's say, a shivery one today, because we've been through a lot of shit in the last week, and seeing the stuff that's come out, it's just, we had to talk about it, right? So look, guys, there is light at the end of the tunnel, only if you want there to be. If you want there to be, I'm right there with you. I'm trying to overtake you, right? And so is David.
This wee bit here, this wee segment, isn't supposed to be downhearted, this bit at the end. It's supposed to be a rallying call. Yeah. But we have to pepper it with political reality.
That's
right. And the reality is, if we don't get behind the vehicle we'll vote for this particular election, especially, that'll be David and I's last campaign.